So, for those of you that are new, my name is Nicole Broadhurst. I'm a former healthcare administrator turned independent patient advocate, founder and CEO of Tennessee Health Advocates, and creator of The Circle, where I help independent patient advocates create sustainable and profitable practices without the chaos of entrepreneurship. So, you may be wondering why I created The Circle. So, we've been going strong for a couple of years now, and we actually started because I opened my business in 2019, and by the end of 2020, I was ready to quit. Like, I wanted to go back and just punch a clock because I was working like crazy. I was working harder than I've ever worked in my whole life and making less money than I had ever made in my whole life. Literally, I made more money babysitting as a teenager than what I was making in 2020. So, the end of 2020, I met Jason Elkins. I attended his 100 Cups Academy, and it is amazing what I learned from that experience. My revenue has doubled annually year over year for the last three years, and 2024 is on the track to do the same. So I don't have any concerns about that. But what I learned in that is that I needed a community in order to grow my business, increase awareness of our profession, and maintain alignment with why I became an advocate in the first place. Right? So if any of that resonates with you, you are in the right place. That's what we're doing here in the circle. I want you to grab some pen and paper. I want you to take notes. I want you to drop questions in the chat as we go through. I promise we'll get to them as we get to the end of the call. So, what are those three things again? One, focus on the person, not on the sale. All right. This is where it's really important, and we talk about this a lot, the importance of active listening and making sure that we're prioritizing the listening part of our conversations, asking open-ended questions, repeating things back to people, making sure that we're spending time, making sure that we show them the respect that they need, and help identify areas where we can make a difference. If we don't listen, we don't know where we can provide the most value, right? So we've got to make sure that we're paying attention to the person and not spending time thinking about the sale. All right. I can tell you, I can go back and I can look at every sales call I've had over the last 5 years, and I can tell you exactly which sales I lost because I was focused on the sale. My revenue was down. I really needed a new client. I needed some cash infusion into the business, and I was focused on closing that sale. And I promise you, the more focused I was on closing that sale, the higher likelihood I was not going to close the sale. It is not possible for me to pay attention to both the person and what they need and be focusing on the outcome. I have to focus on the person and what they need from me, and can I help them? All right. So the first key is focus on the person, not the sale. Now, what does that look like as you're listening to them? What do you put in your notes? I mean, I see this. In fact, I was just reviewing the topic suggestion form, and somebody asked about a consultation sales call. What does that look like? This is what it looks like. Listen first. The second piece of this focusing on the person is about creating a needs assessment, right? Focus on listening to their story and developing an assessment of what they need. What is it they need? We're not even to the part of what you can do yet. Right now, we're just talking about listening to them and identifying what they need, right? As you create that assessment in your notes, oh, they need somebody to, and I'm going to make things up because it could be anything, right? But maybe they need somebody to coordinate their medical records, right? Maybe they just need a place to pull all their medical records together. Maybe they've lived in 5 different cities over the last 3 years. They've had 10 doctors in 10 different cities. They just need to consolidate their medical records. So you'd put that down, right? That would be helpful. That would be something that they need. Maybe they need to better understand their health insurance benefits. Whatever it is, they're going to tell you their story, and all you want to focus on is listening to them and creating a list of their needs, right? Okay. Then the third piece of that is to create benefit-oriented communication. What in the world is that? What it means is that you're going to have this list of all the things that they need, and inevitably you're going to be able to solve and meet most, if not all, of those needs that you identify in that call. So you want to start talking about how that benefits them, right? How the service that you offer provides the solution to their need and ultimately provides them the benefit, right? So you want to talk about that and see what it looks like. And then frame your message around how you have solved problems like theirs in the past. And we're going to get into that in a little bit different way. But you want to talk about all of the benefits that your service is. So for example, let's take the one where they're so confused, they don't know what all their medical records say. You could demonstrate your active listening skills by repeating back to them and saying, it sounds like it would be nice if you had all of your medical records in one place where you could see them chronologically. Would that be helpful? And then they can tell you if you understood their need. Yes, that's exactly right. Then you can say, I can do that. I can provide you with a binder or whatever that looks like for your clients, whether you do a physical binder, maybe you use My Links where you pull in all the portals and do them all together that way. I don't know what tool that you might use, but you start talking about the benefits. Once we do that, then and you can list all of the things they can do once you've pulled that all together for them. So you start talking about the benefits. So one, you listen. Two, you make sure you're doing a needs assessment. And then three, you're using beneficial communication, highlighting the benefits of using your services to meet those needs that you've just identified. Sound good? All right. So if we're going to focus on the person and not on the sale, what's the next key to a successful persuasive sales technique? This is my favorite one. You guys are not going to be surprised. Become a trusted advisor. Okay. Really, this is an extension of focusing on the person, not on the sale. Right? So you want to become a trusted advisor. So this means that you're going to be doing things like one, demonstrating your authority on these particular topics, whatever that is. So you already do this, right? I'm sure that there's some time in your schedule where you're devoting time to researching your favorite pieces of advocacy. So for me, I was just reading about legislation in Kentucky today. There's a bill, Senate Bill 188 was just signed into legislation. I think the governor signed it on Thursday, Friday. Anyway, it protects, it governs, it's new legislation. I'm not going to get into it because I haven't read all of it yet, but it's a new legislation in Kentucky to protect members of self-funded employer group health plans. So it's just signed in, it's just new. Some of the there was a lot of commotion about it. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. My point being is that you are already reading things, right, regularly, that you are staying up to date about that your clients are not. Right? They probably don't have time. They don't even know that that's what you do. But whatever that is, you are spending time developing your authority in that area of advocacy. Okay. And so anytime that you can share or demonstrate that authority in that topic, it brings confidence to folks, right? So for example, you guys know I share things with you and I always say, watch me, I'm doing it, right? I'm already doing it, watch me. What I just did by mentioning that legislation my hope is that that demonstrated to you that I really am watching and paying attention to what's happening in regards to health insurance in different places, right? So my guess is that somebody listening went, wow, Nicole really is paying attention. And you may be actually Google searching Kentucky Senate Bill 188 right now and going, oh, wow, that really is a thing. Like she didn't just make that up, right? So my point is that don't be afraid to talk about the things that you're doing that make you an authority in your space. People want to know. They want to be able to trust you in your area of authority. They want to know that, man, I don't have to worry about what the Senate's doing in Kentucky about ERISA health plans because I know Nicole's already paying attention. So if I have questions, I'm just going to ask, right? That's how you build yourself as a trusted advisor. You can also make sure that you're networking with other stakeholders in your area of authority as well. So if you are a medical billing advocate, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to other billing advocates, because the truth is that none of us can know everything. And so we're stronger together. And make sure that you're networking with each other so that when you run up against something and you're like, oh, Jenny was just talking about having a case like this. Let me call her and talk to her and see if we can kind of powwow through some things. So make sure you're connecting with people that are impacted by the issues in your try not to use expertise, because we're not, I don't know that we ever become experts, but authority areas of subject matter, so that you're broadening your understanding, and it allows you to leverage other people's knowledge and credibility to strengthen your credibility and your advocacy practices. Okay. So the other thing that you can do to become a trusted advisor is to offer free resources. And I mean super valuable resources, not, I don't know, not something that isn't really valuable. Right? Like you want to offer things for free and you want people to be like, you want to hear back from the people that you're serving. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you gave me that. That's awesome. This is the best thing I've ever seen, heard, helped. It's the nicest thing anybody's ever done for me. It's, I have to tell you, honestly, I get this about the circle all day long. I do one-on-one calls with new members as people are coming in, and I'm asking and I'm saying, hey, what can we do to be better? What resources do you need? What topics do you want to talk about? And as we're talking about things, I'm literally tagging them and linking them in previous recordings that I think are going to be helpful to them. And inevitably, they come back to me, they're like, holy cow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Right. And I want to give that because it's a free resource and it presents me as a trusted advisor. Again, this isn't a secret. It's not like I'm out here doing something top secret. Don't, like I'm telling you, this is exactly what I do. And it freaking works, you guys. It works. Okay. So become a trusted advisor, share free resources, make sure you're staying up to date, and don't be afraid to tell people, look, I used to be super, super concerned with one of my favorite publications. You guys don't laugh, or at least do it on mute. It'll make me feel better. Anyway, one of my favorite things to read really has been the Federal Register. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. It's okay. I know. I see somebody's face like, holy cow, really? So I was introduced to the Federal Register back in a long time ago. It might have been the 80s. Okay. It might have been the 80s that I was introduced to the Federal Register, and I learned that literally every law of the land has to be published inside of the Federal Register. And so if you want to go to the mouth of legislation, that's where you go to find it. All right. Anyway, I used to be really embarrassed to tell people I loved to read the Federal Register. I used to be really embarrassed that I would spend my Saturdays at the Wayne State Law Library doing research. Like literally, these are things that, not really wanting to share with people because they're a little bit geeky, right? My friend Jenny loves to say she's a geek about price transparency, but I think I've just kind of outed myself as a serious geek. However, it's one of those places that today I'm not afraid to tell people I do that. Why? Because it's important that people know that I'm doing that, right? Because the truth is, you can leverage my knowledge from the Federal Register and you won't have to read it. Like literally, I can pull it, I can send you the link, you can read what you need and want and get out of it. This is what it looks like to be a trusted advisor, right? When you know somebody does a particular thing and you don't want to do it, like, oh, yeah. Don't worry, I won't, Jenny. I won't. I know that that's weird. All right, so we're going to pay attention. We're going to focus on the person, not the sale. We're going to become a trusted advisor. And then the third thing that I wanted to talk about today was storytelling. Things get really boring when we don't tell stories. I mean, it's just the truth, right? Statistics are really important, they're really powerful. However, when we're trying to talk to somebody and illustrate and demonstrate our value to them, that we can fix their problem, that we're the solution to the problem that they're facing, all of these things, the best way to do that is to tell them a story. It's really interesting. I was just wondering, I wonder how many stories I've told you just today in the last 5 or 10 minutes, right? Because stories are what keep people interested in what we're saying. And they're a little bit entertaining and they demonstrate our successes. They demonstrate that we actually know what we're doing, right? When we can give examples of things that have happened that we can do, here's an example. Somebody asked me in a call today, in a connection call, so what do you do, Nicole? Like, what, how does this work? I told them 3 different client stories, right? I gave them the scenario. I told them what the problem was. I told them what I did to fix it. 3 different examples of what I do, right? Now, I could give you a menu of services. I help with insurance appeals. I help negotiate medical bills. I help review health insurance options. I just told you 3 things that I do. But would you rather hear about a story about where I actually help somebody choose their health insurance and what their feedback was? Do you want me to tell you about Ruth that actually paid me to look at her Medicare Advantage options and do a comparison for her so that she could make a decision? I did that in November. I've talked to her twice since. She, in fact, this is one of the stories I told because she went to go get a hearing aid. And when she went to go get a hearing aid, she was told that she didn't have any out of network benefits for her hearing aid. But my report said she did. And so she emailed me and she was very upset because she wondered how many other errors I had made in my report. Right? Yeah. So, of course, I'm like, I don't think so. So I did another. No, you have 50% coverage for out of network hearing aids, and it doesn't matter what kind of hearing aid it is. So I sent her, I screenshotted it and I sent it to her and I said, I'm going to be really interested to hear what your representative says at Humana about this. So 2 days later, she calls me back. Oh my gosh, Nicole, you were totally right. Okay, so that's one story. Now, wasn't it much more fun hearing about Ruth than it was hearing about me being able to help you choose your health insurance plan? Right? Would you rather hear about Ruth or would you rather? So tell the stories. And the truth is, you guys don't know whether Ruth is her real name. There's no HIPAA violation there. Like, you just know that I helped some woman, maybe named Ruth, that needed help with her Medicare Advantage, and it might have been a Humana policy. So I think sometimes we get tripped up. I get asked a lot when I do public speaking and whatnot about HIPAA and how careful we have to be. The truth is I can tell all the stories about all of my clients. I don't have to reveal their names. I can change their names. I can, maybe Ruth was really James. I mean, nobody knows. I'm the only one that knows what the story looks like. So there's no HIPAA violation. There's no concern regarding that. I can tell the stories because the story is about what I did, what the problem was, and what the solution was. It's not about Ruth, right? So make sure you're using stories. Make sure you're practicing these stories. Here's the other thing. Don't be afraid to spend some time crafting the narrative, right? Because some of the things about Ruth and that story are not valuable for me to share with you. Like they have no impact on the outcome of the story. So it brings me to the third part about storytelling, practice. Just telling stories. Like pick your favorite or your biggest 3 client wins and really spend some time crafting what that story sounds like so that you can demonstrate the value and the service that you provided in that story clearly, succinctly, and make an impact, right? And then commit to using those 3 stories every time you talk to somebody. Because inevitably somebody's going to ask you, right? And eventually, here's the beautiful news about all of this. Eventually, you will have an example for every service you provide. You will have a story for every service that you provide. So what happens becomes, if you think back to the structure of the call, right? We're going to listen. We're going to create a needs assessment, and then we're going to provide a benefit-oriented communication on how we can solve the problem. In that communication, we're going to demonstrate that we are an authority in our subject matter by sharing things that we've learned recently about it. And we're going to craft stories to demonstrate how we have already solved this problem for somebody else successfully. Okay. So by the end of this 25 or 30-minute sales call, they're going to want to sign up with you. Why wouldn't they? You're personable, you're nice, they like you, you clearly know what you're doing because you've demonstrated that you have an authority on your subject matter, and last but not least, you've done it before. So we've talked about this sales call really becoming a no-brainer, that if there's still questions at the end of this call, then it becomes your job to weed those out and figure out what happened. But I'm telling you, at least 30% of people, that's all it's going to take, is what we just went over and reviewed as far as sales on your sales calls. And that's all I've got. So